We're back, baby! Welcome into the episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of HockeyRoyalty.com. The boys are back in town. It's been a long time since we've joined together for this lovely bunch of merry men here to talk about your LA Kings. We're talking, recency bias, because we haven't talked in a while. Episode 212. We're getting in the chat. Like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. What's up, boys? How's it going? We are here. We are back, fresh off an LA Kings win. The vibes are good. Russell Morgan looks like he just moved. If anybody was paying attention on Twitter, Joe, just freshly waxed his head there looks nice and shiny, probably off a win of his high school team. And I just got a fresh cut, ready to go. This weekend, I'm taking my babe to Oklahoma into a nice little log cabin. We're gonna have a nice little weekend for our anniversary. So hey, we're all buzzing right now, having some fun before we have to really dig deep and talk to your LA Kings or about your LA Kings. But boys, how are we doing? It's been a long time since I've seen your guys' lovely faces.
Yeah, it has been a long time. Too long, in fact. I've missed you guys. Like Randon, you teed up. I've been going through a move. For those who don't know, I moved to Arizona to be closer to family. It was a good move. I'm happy. I was happy to do it. It was a little sad to kind of get away from the team and be a part of that kind of reporter aspect, but I enjoyed my time doing it. It was really kind of bittersweet to say goodbye to all the people that I got to know over the past few years. A lot of the questions that you can have about the team and coaching and management is totally fair. But the people that run the Kings behind the scenes, whether it be like productions, social media, TV, everybody is even the media guys that you get to meet, everybody there is so cool. So it was good. It was nice to say goodbye to everybody. But yeah, I'm happy to be in Arizona by some friends and family. So it's a new change, a new stretch in my life, but I'm looking forward to it. Joe, I missed you, my man. How you doing? You've been busy too.
Yeah, very busy. Happy to hear that the move is going okay. It's been busy. So like I was telling you guys before, once the high school season starts, there's like a slow build up and then bang, you're in one and you're every day at the rink. And the two kids, I got my older sons in mites, my younger son's doing learn to skates. So I'm helping coaching my older son too, in addition to I have a day job. So it's like, it's been pretty busy. This is the time of year, like usually once high school starts, it just gets busy. Like everything gets that much more busy. It just is what it is. But it's kind of fun. Like I'm at the rink just about 7 days a week, which I love. It's awesome. So we're knee deep at this point, waist deep into hockey season. So it's awesome. I mean, it definitely like hinders. I watch what I can when I can at this point. Like I am usually, this is the way it goes. Like the first 20 to 25 games of the Kings, I'm able to catch like all of them. Then the high school season comes in and it's a shit show. And I'll catch I'll try to watch as much as I can, catch up on games, watch games recorded, whatever. But it is what it is. It's busy. It's fun. So all good though. Randon, how you doing?
Well, the degenerate that Joe is, he's going to go back and watch every single game and tally all his in-season stats. We'll get those probably by March, but he's dedicated and ready to go. I'm doing well, man. Like I said, anniversary is this weekend with the girls, so I'm excited to just go and get in the log cabin, sit by the fire, and drink some beers and have some fun and just relax, get away from society. Work's been a lot. It's been a lot to, I'm there usually 11, 12 hours a day. So it'll be nice for us to get away. Football unexpectedly is going well. I mean, with all the injuries for the Niners, didn't expect us to be anywhere near there, but we have like a 13% chance to be first in the NFC come playoffs. So can't be too mad about that. I'm in quite a few fantasy football playoffs to win some money. So can't really complain too much, man. Just it's weird here in Texas, though. I'll tell you that it's going to be 80 degrees on Christmas, which doesn't
80.
it doesn't feel right. So it's gonna be weird. So gonna be out. I'll probably be out in shorts.
It was actually warm today here, Brandon. It was 54 degrees today, which is
that's beautiful though.
It's pretty warm.
Some jeans, a light hoodie, and a toque on top.
Yeah,
there you go.
Pretty warm day for
Joe's out there rocking a tank top. I know it for sure.
Yeah.
We had this guy at my ski resort when I worked at the ski resort, and he's like he was from Alaska, and then he moved down here, and it don't matter. It was like 12 degrees outside, -12, and he was in just a jacket and shorts, like through the snow, whatever. Like he's always in shorts.
Can't be.
It was glorious. So speaking of glorious, we're glad to be back, but the Kings have been a little bit up and down over the last 3 weeks. We're here to break it down for you. What have you guys noticed about the team in the last 3 weeks? Russ, I think your tweet said it best, is that, hey, pick up any recap over the last month and it can suffice for the Kings play. It seems like a lot of the same old with different nuances to the good and bad. How do you kind of view this team right now in mid-December?
Oh man, Brandon, it's to say that I'm surprised over everything that's going on right now would probably be a lie. We've talked about this a lot extensively over the offseason, how some of the moves that they made in certain positions weren't necessarily what we felt would be the right ones or would help improve this team. And yeah, so it seems like a lot of our concerns are coming true, and which it's tough because now it's become almost a chore to watch this team. And like you said, like every game it's the same. I'm watching the same game every night. It's going to end up being 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 maybe, and the Kings are struggling to score. The power play has been struggling, although it's got a couple helpers, I guess you could say, the last few games. But overall, it's just been a lot of what we, or at least what I expected this team to be. Just a team that's going to focus hyper defensively and who's going to struggle to get pucks in the back of the net, try to create offensive scoring chances, create scoring chances off the rush, highlight reel stuff. It's really kind of garbage stuff and really muck it up type plays that the Kings are really looking for. And that's what we've been seeing the last few games, or even pretty much the entire season. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Maybe it's unfortunate, maybe, if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, which I tend to be. I like to watch hockey because I feel like it's the best sport in the world because it's so fast paced and so many chances, a lot of physicality. And for the Kings, it's really none of that. It's just, we're just going to break you down and really grind it out and make this a 60-minute slugfest in terms of just neutral zone disconnect. It's been it hasn't been too fun to watch, but they got the win tonight, and I'm not overly concerned of them missing the playoffs. Really, kind of, you look at the way that the standings are going in the rest of the Western Conference, there's a lot of teams still, I feel like, trying to build something. So I feel like the Kings are able to sneak into a playoff spot even with the lack of exciting play that they're able to bring to the ice. But yeah, it's a chore at this point.
Yeah. From an entertainment standpoint, and a hockey standpoint, the team's unwatchable. But this is a style of play that we've seen it be very successful in the regular season. This is a team that's built for the regular season because the floor is so high, right? Like their floor is very, very high with how they're going to play because they're never they're rarely going to beat themselves, if you will. They may beat themselves in the sense that they don't score, but they're just so sound defensively that they're going to be in every game. They're going to get all the loser points. If they lose games, they lose games in overtime or shootouts. So they're picking up points throughout the way. I agree that I feel pretty confident from where they sit in the playoff standpoint as we, enter as we get ready to enter January or enter Christmas here. But it's we talked about this, and I mentioned it in the off season after the off season was like, my expectations for this season are, it was almost like after Ken Holland put the dagger and officially closed whatever cup window and chances were there, I could then enter this season with appropriate expectations and just not get all that upset about it. Because like this is a style of play that will work and get them into playoffs because it's a high ceiling. I think that's all ownership cares about. They're going to get a couple more home gates, and that's great. So they're happy, but from this team isn't a contender. They're not anywhere near the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the West. It is what it is. If they win a playoff round, great, but it's hard to envision that at this standpoint, and not to get too ahead of ourselves as we approach the halfway point. But that's just kind of where I'm at right now, especially after this recent stretch, which has been just brutal to watch. Even the win tonight, they got very badly outplayed by Tampa Bay, but they won. So you take the 2 points, and they've been able. Again, the floor is high, right? And they've been able to do that. So they're getting good goaltending, and it is what it is, right? Like this is the team for the foreseeable future, and so you hope they make playoffs. You hope they're competitive, and you hope maybe they win around. Like that's just what it is.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, enjoy it as much as you can. Enjoy this non-entertaining hockey, and enjoy the home gate that you don't get to be a part of. If anything, you're paying for it. So, yeah.
We tried to, as much as possible, bring the positive, right? We wanted the Fiala Byfield Kempe line that lasted maybe a game and a half, 2 games. That didn't really work out. I think the only bright spot all season, and I'm never going to end up stopping pumping this kid's tires, is Brent Clark. But ultimately, I think he's been the spot that has never dimmed all season, just playing outstanding hockey. The confidence from Jim Hiller and him, we were all wrong saying that he wouldn't be playing a lot of minutes. And yeah, there's still some games where he's at the bottom, but I think overall, the brass trust him, and it's just unfortunate that they won't. When Doughty comes back, it's like you have the odd man out there. But ultimately, I think Brent Clark is playing really well. And whether they rebuild like a lot of fans want to, he's a piece of that team. Whether they try to push in for a playoff run, he's a piece of this team. So I think that he's been a very good bright spot for this organization, and one that it's been nice to watch. I'm glad to see him touch the puck anytime that he's on the ice.
The poor guy is trying to do his best to kind of create any sort of offense, at least in the offensive zone. I mean, how many times have I seen him try to walk the blue line or go down ride the boards down toward the goal line, and everybody's just kind of standing around watching him like,
they don't know
what do we do now? Like they have no idea how to play off of him, and it's so unfortunate because he's easily been, like, I agree with you, Brandon. He's easily been one of the few, if not the only bright spot of this team throughout the entire season. And he's only, 22, 23 years old. And the fact that, and I agree, like Jack Fry said, he's just been handcuffed with Edmondson. And it's...
Who's fourth on the team in assists because
he's having a great season in himself, but it is like... he's only limited in what he's able to do offensively too. Like there was the game last night where Clark, exactly what I described, Clark goes down to the half wall, feeds Edmondson a beautiful pass in the slot, and Edmondson's kind of floating away instead of just standing there right in the slot, waiting for a pass and waiting for a shot, and then he flubs the opportunity. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, imagine there was an offensively like instinctual guy there waiting for that pass on the other end, and Clark just is able to find him, and it just would be so much better and probably result in a goal. But no, it's Joel Edmondson, who is a guy who, no fault in his own, that's just the kind of player he is.
Mm-hmm.
He just goes in and he's just going to wait for a pass at the stop of by the blue line and try to hammer it home. And luckily it's kind of worked for him in most parts of the season, so that's been nice. But when you're a team that's kind of hurting for offense, and when a lot of Kings fans, including myself, want to see more offense, this is part of the reason. This is kind of the blame right here. You can point to that reason alone.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple other bright spots as well with him. You know, like people said, don't forget Joel Armia. Obviously, we appreciate Darcy Kemper, Corey Perry in the beginning of the season. But you're right. I mean, that we believe this team needs to be built from the blue line up, and the Lone Star bright spot on the blue line has been Brant Clark.
Yeah, Joe, and we talked about this a little bit in the live during the watch party here, but you mentioned that question that Andrew Knoll asked Jim Hiller after, I think, the Calgary game about like the disconnect between the defensemen and the forwards, and he pretty much agreed and said that they're just not as dangerous off the rush because of that disconnect. And yeah, you had that.
What a bizarre thought.
Yeah, exactly. How surprising is that, right?
I mean, you know, when you look at the Kings, the last two, and I say 2 off seasons because I include Joel Edmondson in this, like he's a part of this. When you bring in the likes of Edmondson, Dumoulin, Ceci, what do you expect? You know, because I still think there's a segment of the fan base and hockey fans in general, and maybe even quote unquote hockey people probably that are in Los Angeles, frankly, that are like, well, you need to win in playoffs, you need big defensemen, right? And while there may be like some truth to that, like how size can matter in playoffs, you can't just look at like their height and weight. You have to be able to see if they can actually play the game. And when you get guys that can't do that, this is the result, right? This is what you get. And the Kings have had a hard enough time scoring goals because, you know, they play a pretty rigid style of play and the way that they want to score goals in the offensive zone. So they're already going to struggle to score goals. And then when you just strip them of any creativity from the back end, that matters. And there's still enough. I still don't understand how there's people that can't see that how much defensemen matter for offense, particularly in today's NHL, how impactful defensemen are to the offense. And I think there's still a misconception that means like high risk defensemen, right? Yeah, and that's not true at all. Look at Florida, look at Carolina, like the likes of Gustav Forsling and Jacob Slavin. And some of these are some of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL, but they're so good with the puck too. Like that matters. You can't just be one thing these days. I don't think. And, you know, that's, you know, I've always talked about limiting your upside, and that's just what they've done. Like the Kings have just a severely limited upside, particularly on the back end. I mean, the floor may be high for this team, but the ceiling is not much higher than the floor.
Right here, a super chat. Marvin Matute 7485 gives us a $6 hard. Thank you, Marvin.
Thanks, Marvin.
Nothing to be happy about until Hiller is gone. People are frustrated, and people are frustrated with the back end. They're frustrated with the front end. We're gonna get to the coaching change possibilities later on in the pod. So Marvin, stick around for our thoughts, and everybody stick around for our thoughts. But I think a lot of fans are frustrated. They thought, you know, hey, you know, well, a lot of fans are fans of big defensemen. Hey, we brought in a couple of big physical guys. Joel Edmondson was brought in to be physical, clear out the front of the net, all this kind of stuff, and it's just been a disappointment with the play. For the fans that thought that was a good idea, and then for the fans that wanted more mobile guys that can establish a puck, we're like, hey, this is what we thought was going to happen, but we still didn't want to happen. I think it's just a little bit of disappointment from everything, because I think not only is it disappointment in the season, but it's the unknown of where this team should go in the future. Like there's being a middle ground team is never a good thing, because you don't know where the direction is going forward. Excuse me. And I think there's a lot of frustration about that amongst Kings fans, and a lot of them want to see a head coaching change in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, there was even in the last few seasons, there was some kind of hope that you'd see some growth, at least over some players. I mean, Quentin Byfield, Brant Clark, and like we talked about, Alex Laferriere, Adrian Kempe, who's now got a big contract. I mean, you can even go to Jordan Spence, who was a flourishing young defender on the blue line, who seemed to be growing into a player of his own, and who's now even playing pretty well, I feel like, for Ottawa. So there was a lot of hope that there was some growth there, but now they've tied themselves into. I mean, their blue line is stuck. I mean, with some of the contracts that they've signed, we got Joe Edmondson for 2 more seasons, I believe. 1 more season after this.
2.
Cody Ceci signed a 4-year deal in the offseason. Brian Dumoulin signed a 3-year deal in the offseason, so he's got 2 more years after this year. Mikey Anderson's going to be around, although I don't think he's the worst type of young defenseman to have. And then Drew Doughty still signed for a few more years. So as far as like trades that are able to happen to improve this blue line, where does that happen? They're not going to trade. Like I keep seeing, like I agree, like with a lot of Kings fans, I would love to see it. I would love to see them go out and get a player like Quinn Hughes, who we'll talk about that trade. I would have loved to see that happen. But do you think, like, I would be like totally, like, I would not be shocked at all if this team like didn't value a player like Joel Edmondson over what Quinn Hughes or some others, like maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but a player like that type of player, like they value those Joel Edmondsons over those type of, I mean, like young offensive defensive players. So they're not going to trade any of them. They're not going to trade Edmondson. They're not going to trade a Dumoulin or CC because they value those type of defenders.
Right.
And when we have the questions of where's the offense going to happen, it's like that Eric Andre meme where it's he shoot the guy and it's like, who did this? Like, you did this, like, right? Like, that's why when Jim Hiller says that question, like, oh, I don't know, we're not as dangerous off the rush this year. Well, it's like, yeah, no shit. Like, there's a reason for that. And you can probably blame your GM and maybe even some of the systems that you're coaching too.
We got one here, a fan that knows the direction that he wants to go. I am Ray G. Biv with a $5 holler here coming in. Generally, don't care about this season. Sim to the offseason, please. Keep Kempe, Clark, Armia, Anderson, Turcotte, Greentree, and all of our goalie prospects, and scratch the rest. He wants to scrape it down to the bare nubs. I think a lot of fans think a rebuild is in order. Where do you guys kind of feel that this team could be headed at the offseason?
I feel, well, first of all, I'm a little offended at the Chelsea logo, but I'll let that slide. Thank you for.
Hey, I'm a Chelsea fan. I like it. There we go.
I'll ignore that.
Palmer, give him a little shiver. I like it. I'll throw you one of those.
I'll ignore that. So it's funny, and the genuinely don't care about this season. Maybe that's maybe him summing up my like low expectations and entering the season. That's just, it is what it is. So yeah, like I feel like there's some people out there talking about this sucks. Even if we win games, like this is like the game today, like this is stupid. What are we watching? Just rebuild. But like that's not going to happen. You know, Ken Holland is here to win. You know, he's here to win a cup. He's here to contend for a cup. You know, he's here for what, 2 to 3 years, maybe. And he's going to do what he can to try to win a Stanley Cup, which is kind of scary if you think about it, because that means he's in charge of trading potentially a Greentree, or I'm obviously fine with trading goalie prospects. And, you know, that doesn't bother me much, but like, you know, the Kings have a pretty thin system as it is. And you definitely, for a guy like Holland, who's here not to rebuild, he's here to win. So he doesn't care about these prospects. So could you see some of these guys move as we approach the trade deadline to see him try to upgrade this roster? That's a scary thing, because you just don't know like what that could mean. I mean, are you trading Greentree for Alex Tuch? Like, I don't know, like stuff like that is a thing that should be concerning for people, because he's already set this team back far with what he did to the blue line, and he could set it back even further if depending on how we approach this deadline. So I understand the sentiment here, but I will say, like, not opposed to trading the goalie prospects, just because depends. You know, you never know. Like if there's a player out there with term, I'm interested. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the sentiment is fair. I think the sentiment's fair. And thanks again for the 5.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a Chelsea fan again. just to kind of stick it in Joe a little bit. But
Thank you.
it's funny you say trade the goalie prospects. I think you might have some Kings fans with torches and pitchforks in your front yard if you
Sure, I will.
say that once Carter
Wouldn't be the
George
first
kind of
time.
Carter George comes and has a wild performance at the World Juniors here. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to watching that kid. I think
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like it's like, but even it's funny because like I see like the rebuild, like, oh, we need to just tear down to the studs and like not go anywhere. But like Joe, we just went over, like, we wouldn't be surprised if this team, I mean, we would be more surprised if this team missed the playoffs than made the playoffs, right? Like
Yes.
this team certainly looks to be a team that's going to make the playoffs. And then they go, what happens there? So, I mean, not to say that it's like hard to make the playoffs. I mean, half the league makes the playoffs, so it is what it is. But I think what's so disappointing is that what's the upside there? Like, what's the ceiling of this team? And that's where you get disappointed because you're now all of a sudden in the purgatory where you're like the Minnesota Wild. And we've said this
Of
countless
old,
times.
by the way.
Yeah, of old. Not the Wild now, who are
Yeah.
very fun to watch. But, yeah.
I think it's just the stock. I think it's what is the genuine stock of this team, and what do the brass that are controlling everything actually view this team, right? I mean, they're not going to tear this team down to the nubs as much as Ray G. Biv wants it to be, but the team could have had some foresight and been like, "Hey, we're not a very good team. We could get something for Vladislav Gavrikov. We could have got something for Roy, and not just future picks. Like they could have got a young prospect and a pick for Gavrikov playing the way he was, and maybe move this team forward in a long distance way." But a lot of people are like, hey, they sped up the rebuild for Kopitar and Doughty. They're trying to win a cup in his last year. This is Kopitar's swan song. They're just delaying the inevitable at this point. So if they don't rebuild this year, which we all don't think they will, then what are we come the summertime? Are we really out there hunting for a 1C? Because so far Byfield is not a 1C.
That's for sure.
And then are we, which in hunting for a 1C, like who's the only 1C really available? Elias Pettersson for Vancouver? Is Vancouver really going to trade him within the division? And is he a true 1C? Like he hasn't really been the player that they signed since they signed that contract. You could patch some things together with Nazem Kadri, but like there's really not a 1C out there for this team next season. So are we just kicking the can of reality down the line? I think a lot of fans think like, hey, I don't really care about Kopitar's swan song. We did this to ourselves. Let's do what's best for the team. Let's kind of get some younger pieces in here and build towards the future. The rebuild failed. It is what it is. And where brass seems to be like, hey, we're going to try to keep this thing together. Anything is possible in the playoffs. You know, any given Sunday, as that term is for football, well, you know, we can try to piece some things together. We play good defense.
I mean, I've been on the record saying like I was fine keeping Matt Roy, Vladislav Gavrikov. I mean, I was even fine not paying Vladislav Gavrikov. It's just the pivot to multi-year deals for Brian Dumoulin, multi-year deal for Cody Ceci. Now you backed yourself into a corner where now you're stuck with these team players who the last time Cody Ceci was given a multi-year deal, he had to be traded along with the draft pick to San Jose just to get him off the salary cap by the same GM. Or was it the same GM? It wasn't Ken Holland, right? I think it was what's his name?
Bowman, I think, got out of that.
Bowman. Yeah. It might have been Bowman. But yeah, like this is like that's the issue. You could have gone with, hey, let's just give John Klingberg a 1-year deal at $1.5 million and see what happens. Let's keep Jordan Spence around for a couple more years at $1.5 million, and then maybe trade him for something else in the offseason during the summer and see what happens, because we've already seen what happens with Jordan Spence in this system, in this defensive first system, a player that can flourish. You don't need to be worried about trying to figure out a way to play Brandt Clark and Jordan Spence on the same lineup. There's injuries that happens. Your power play can be shitty, and all of a sudden you're searching for a defenseman to play on the power play because you're not comfortable with playing Brandt Clark. You don't have a Drew Doughty, and now all of a sudden you're stuck playing your top goal scorer 50 feet away from the net because you're not confident in any other defenseman playing that position. So it's like, so I'll say it's the pivot that they went to. I was totally fine with keeping those players. But now all of a sudden, when you're stuck with these multi-year deals, defensemen who nobody in the league wants, and it's probably we're going to get to a point where Cody Ceci's going to get bought out. It's going to happen. Brian Dumoulin's most likely going to get bought out or traded. It's going to happen. And they're going to have to figure out a way to pivot from there again. But you backed yourself in the corner with those contracts.
Yeah, I agree with Russ on that, and I think especially with Roy, there was a vision there. Like that was the Dubois. He was on that team, so like there was a vision there of like, okay, here's what we need to do. These are the players because we had the lack of depth in the middle. Blah 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 blah. Like there was a vision there. So I can understand that one, and I agree with the Gavrikov thing. It's much more about the pivot, right? It's much more about what they decided to go to, and that's the frustrating thing. And it will never not be funny then when there's 2 minutes left in the game, 3 minutes left in the game, and the Kings are trailing by one, and Adrian Kempe's playing defense. It will never not be funny because they don't have anybody else. But that's where we're at, and that's
It's like a knife in my back that gets twisted every time I look at Money Puck and I see the defensive pairs on top of the expected goal share, and right at the top is Jacob Chikrin and Matt Roy. And it's just like, man,
what could have been
in LA. Like, who could have saw that coming?
Did you see the goal Chikrin scored today, by the way?
Well, he's the guy who's leading the league in goals by defensemen, who, for whatever reason, the Kings couldn't figure out a way to trade here. I don't know. Maybe there was him and Blake and Bill Armstrong didn't get along, but I would have loved to watch those two. But I get to watch them in Washington.
Yeah, you can watch them.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Speaking of wishing what you could have done, is you don't want to wish what you could have done by betting on another site. You want to bet on DraftKings because every yard, every sack, every interception, every touchdown with Pick 6, DraftKings' newest game, every snap can turn into big-time payouts because this isn't just watching a game. This is playing to win. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats. The better your picks, the better your payout. It's that simple. And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in Pick 6 credits with just a $5 entry on your first set. You know the game. Now make it pay. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN. And play just $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. Make the call. Ride the upside in a partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-878-9777 or visit ccpg.org. In Connecticut, must be 18 plus age and eligibility. Restrictions by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awards are non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits expire after 14 days. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offers. Well, guys, we're going to go kick it here from the code THPN. We're going to kick it over to coast to coast, talking about the trades around the league, including the big one with Quinn Hughes. But first, we're going to start here with the trade that is in the Pacific Division. Edmonton Oilers switch it over here and get themselves a goaltender. They're tired of the Stuart Skinner experience, and they acquired Tristan Jarry and forward Samuel Poulin from the Pittsburgh Penguins for Stuart Skinner, defenseman Brett Kulak, and a 2029 second-round pick. Edmonton has also acquired defenseman Spencer Stasny from Nashville Predators for a 2027 third-round pick, making Kulak expendable, according to this article. We're big Kulak fans. I don't think he's that expendable. Seems like Edmonton paid quite a lot for this trade. What do you guys feel about the Edmonton move? Was the goalie that big of a need, and did they really upgrade anything?
The goalie was never a big need in Edmonton. We've seen it firsthand the last 4 years. We always think it's the Kings have the advantage there, and it never happens. I mean, Kings, I believe, were shut out at one point by Calvin Pickard, if I recall, or at least beaten by Calvin Pickard a couple times last year.
Many teams were.
And yeah, that's true. And many teams were beaten by Stuart Skinner the last few years too.
Correct.
But for whatever reason, the Oilers just couldn't take it anymore. And I feel like he's just Skinner became the scapegoat for a lot of the other big defensive problems that Edmonton had. But it's like the who was the coach? Woodcroft. It's like Woodcroft getting fired. Like somebody has to be the scapegoat over the poor start that the Edmonton Oilers always have. And this year, like I said, it was Woodcroft a couple years ago. It's Stuart Skinner this year. And for whatever reason, they decided to trade away not only Skinner, but Brett Kulak, who, Brandon, like you said, we're big fans of Brett Kulak. I remember when they made the trade for Kulak, I'm like, this is one of the more underrated deals of the season because of how much he's going to be able to shore up that line. Very solid guy who can move the puck and play solid defense. It's a mixture, kind of the hockey royalty type of defenseman we all love. It's like, and they flipped him, even though he's an unrestricted free agent. You could have kept him around, maybe keep him and then see what happens after the season. I don't know. But if I'm the Penguins, I'm Kyle Dubas. I'm thinking, thank you. I get a second-round pick. I get a defenseman who I could probably flip at the deadline for maybe another second-round pick and turn a goalie who was on waivers last January. Anybody could have had him for free. Waivers last January and give him away for these future assets. So, yeah, big win for the Penguins. And unfortunately, he got hurt tonight. Tristan Jarry got hurt, as John mentions tonight for the Oilers. So that's a tough situation there in Edmonton because if he's hurt and you lose those assets, I don't know where you go from there.
Yeah, I mean, they made a trade for a goalie who isn't even any good. Like Jarry's not a good goalie. So I don't understand. Like, I guess it's an upgrade in the sense that he's different from Skinner, but I don't think he's like a drastic upgrade. Now, the only thing I'll say, because I agree with everything Russ said, love Brett Kulak. He's been so good for the Oilers, particularly in playoffs. Like, he's been really, really good. The only thing I'll say is they did make, as Randon, you pointed out, the move for Spencer Stastny. And I don't know a lot about this player. So, could this be – now, it's probably not because it's Stan Bowman, but could this be, Bowman playing a little bit of chess when others are playing checkers and acquiring a player like Spencer Stastny, who maybe is a hidden gem here? That could be. There's some buzz about how he's a pretty sneaky good player. I just genuinely don't know a lot about him, so I don't want to, say one way or the other. I just know how big of a fan I am of Brett Kulak. So, I don't know. My immediate thought is, well, Edmonton's kind of worse. They maybe upgraded in goal, but probably not really. And they lost Kulak. So how are they better? But again, maybe Stastny fills in. So I don't know. I think, it was a pretty bizarre situation. I get it that it just got to a point with Skinner where it just came to a head and they needed to move on. I understand that. But kind of like what Russ was saying with Holland and the Kings, it's one thing to move on, but your pivot to Jarry, like that's the answer. Boy, I'm not, even if I guess he got hurt today. I don't know the severity or anything like that, but even healthy, like, I don't know that's putting you over. That's not getting you past Florida. Like in those last two cups here, Tristan Jarry, you're winning the cup. No, right? Like they still lose. So I don't know. I don't think Jarry's the answer, but they had to do something, I guess. So they did it.
I know they're in the same division, but it's like go getting a Demko would have been a move, right? Like a guy who's truly elite, but has been injured. And you're like, okay, well, he's a low cost. If he can be healthy at the right time, he could really revolutionize our team. And, that's a division trade. So that the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. But, you have Soros in Nashville, right? And I would rather pay way more money and take some salary and figure that out to get UC Soros rather than make a mediocre upgrade.
Am I crazy, or is Alex Lyon better than Tristan Jarry and Stuart Skinner? Like that, I think he's a fine goalie and probably could have been, dare I say, fairly cheap. Buffalo's got a gluttony of goalies right now. Like that would have been my target is Alex Lyon. And for anyone that's going to say, well, is Alex Lyon going to lead you to cup? And is Tristan Jarry going to lead you to cup? And look what it costs you. Like, there's no way, Lyon's costing you that. So I don't know. That would have been my target. And maybe it was, and there wasn't a deal there. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Jari's necessarily the answer. But again, hey, hashtag goalies. You just never know.
Dude, Jari has 2 years left too at 5.3, I think.
Horrible deal when they signed him.
Yeah, I mean, what John Gibson got traded for a second and a fourth, and he's got 1 more year left at 6. Would that have been? I mean, Joe, you're kind of just you're solely out on anybody.
Well, I mean, I'm not on. Like, I just don't think Gibson's that good anymore. Honestly, I don't. Is he having that good of a season in Detroit? I don't know.
Speaking of backups that are having a good season that could have helped you win a Stanley Cup, Jonathan Quick. New York's not in it. Jonathan Quick's having a hell of a year.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that have been something? See Jonathan Quick raise the cup with Edmonton
after he raised it with Vegas.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he would have loved that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think I get it. Them wanting to make a move here, but Jari just, I don't know. It feels like more of a name, which is kind of crazy because I don't know that he's done anything. I don't know.
He was a name a couple years ago, and like he's a guy that's like held on to that season that he had, that short 2-season run, and like people still think he's that player, and he's shown otherwise multiple times.
Yeah, we'll see.
A guy that has shown that he's a player for his entire career on the move out of Vancouver. Quinn Hughes traded to the Wild by the Canucks in return for Rossi, Ogren, Zabuyam, and a 2026 first for the 2023 and 24 Norris Trophy winner. I had to do a double take on Twitter to make sure this wasn't a fan account or a dummy account or whatever was going on. But man, what a blockbuster trade. We haven't seen a trade this big probably since Kachuk out of Calgary. And so American Boy goes to the Minnesota Wild. These are not your mother and father's Minnesota Wild anymore, Joe. These are fun to watch. They really put their name on the table. Zabuyam, one of the top defenseman prospects in the league. Liam Ogren, drafted in the first round in the, I think, 19th overall. Has yet to put it together in the NHL level, but was over a point per game player in the AHL. Marco Rossi, 60-point season last year. So quite a few guys that have put together comparable seasons, good acumen, all drafted in the first round, and Vancouver gets a 2026 first on top of it. But ultimately, they say you get the best person in the trade, you win the trade. Minnesota gets Quinn Hughes. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a hell of a deal for both teams, frankly. Like, from a Vancouver standpoint, listen, you trade Quinn Hughes, you're going to lose, but like they were going to trade Quinn Hughes. It just got to the point where this was going to happen. And I think if you're going to trade Quinn Hughes, if the package coming back is Boehm, Rossi, Ogren, and a first, man, you can do a lot worse than that. Like, that's a hell of a return, I think. I think Vancouver did a really good job, all things considered. The fact that it got to this point, blah, 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 all that stuff, set that aside for a second. But, like, if Quinn Hughes was going to get traded, that's a hell of a package. And I don't, I can understand why, there's a lot of teams that say, well, we could have done that. We could have done that. Are you sure about that? Because that's really good. So I think Vancouver did about as good as you could in doing so. But holy cow, Randon, yeah, like the Minnesota Wild, they ain't no boring Minnesota Wild mid anymore. Like, that's a real deal team now. Getting a guy like Quinn Hughes back there, not to mention Kaprizov and the rest of them up front, Eriksson Ek. I mean, this team, Boldy, like this team is now. I've been like, this team needed like another piece for me to take them a bit seriously. They just got them, so I'm taking them pretty seriously now. They're getting great goaltending. They got star power. They got an elite defenseman. This team is one to watch out for, and it sucks that they're in the Central Division from their standpoint, but that's a great trade, fun trade.
It seems, by all accounts, it seems like both the organization and the player got what they wanted, and now it's coming out. Quinn Hughes pretty much told the brass that he wasn't considering signing back in Vancouver in the summertime. They made kind of a push in and re-signed Bozier and brought in pieces to maybe sweeten the pot. Hey, maybe if we get a playoff run, he'll stay and we can renegotiate those contracts. But when the team is ranked 32nd in the league or bottom 3 team in the league,
yeah,
and Quinn's already made it known that he wants to leave, and you can get that kind of haul. I think both the team and the organization and the player kind of both got what they wanted. According to a lot of insiders, the agent made it known that if you give us a hand on where we're going, because he didn't have a no trade clause. If you give us kind of a hand where we're going, we'll let you know for sure if we're signing or not. And they said, yeah, we'll let you know. And Quinn's like, no, I'm not coming back. So you better trade me to a team that I have a hand in. And he chose the Minnesota Wild. I don't know if it was just the best package or what was going on. And Mr. G over Minnesota said he didn't want to mix gears. He said he put a strong offer on the table on the first bid. Vancouver accepted the offer and they moved forward. It really wasn't a back and forth. And sometimes you need to go out there and get your guy. And Minnesota did just that.
It sounds like Minnesota put together the best package from everything I've heard or read. I could be wrong there, but yeah, I mean, this is one of the few trades where, I mean, obviously Minnesota is the clear winner. When you get the best player, you're always going to be the clear winner in the trade. But Vancouver did pretty damn good here too. I mean, to come out with a package like that, I mean, that was kind of what because I agree with you. I think this is one of the biggest trades since maybe the Matthew Tkachuk trade from Calgary. But my gripe of that trade was that instead of just going maybe full rebuild, Calgary kind of dove right in and trying to stay relevant, and look where it's led them. They went and kept. They brought in Huberdeau and Uyghur, and those guys they weren't nearly as impactful as Matthew Tkachuk, and now they're kind of spinning their tires a little bit. Whereas with this trade with Vancouver, you get all young assets and two. I would say even though he's played, I think not even played 50 games yet. Steve Boyum still seems like a very solid NHLer already, and then just couple him with Marco Rossi and Ogren, who's kind of growing into his own. You could have done a whole lot worse. So, I mean, hats off to Vancouver. I think what kind of sucks for them is that they weren't able to build a winning team with Quinn Hughes around. Maybe that's what maybe stings the most here for them. But to get the most out of a crappy situation was a win in itself. But now with the Wild, this was a move they had to make. They were going to be irrelevant in that division, with Colorado seemingly being a powerhouse for the next few years. Dallas going to be a powerhouse for the next few years. You had to do something to become relevant, and this does make them relevant. It's just I still don't know if I'm able to pick them to beat Dallas in the first round, because it seems to be it'll be the Wild and Dallas being 2-3 in the Central, with Colorado kind of running away with that division. So it's going to be a tough first round series, and it's kind of like where the Kings were at the last few years, where you're just facing a tough Edmonton team in the first round. You're kind of stuck spinning your tires in the first round too.
Well, what's funny though is the Kings struggled to beat Edmonton, so their solution was let's go get Edmonton, Ceci, and Dumoulin, where Bill Guerin was like, you know what? Let's go get Quinn Hughes. Let's see how that works. And I like his chances a little bit better. And I think this trade almost reminds me a little bit in a weird way of the Mike Richards trade, with Braden Shen going and Wayne Simmons going the other way to Philly, which was not it wasn't always like an immediately popular trade because Braden Shen was such a big prospect and Wayne Simmons is a fan favorite. But my take at the time was, you hope Braden Shen turns into Mike Richards. Like, if you're trying to win right now, get the Mike Richards right now. Let's just get Mike Richards instead of waiting 2, 3, 4 years for Shen to turn into Mike Richards. Like, Zeev Buium, could conceivably be he could turn into Quinn Hughes at some point. I'm that bullish on how good this kid is. But why wait 2, 3 years to get that if just go get him right now? Go get Quinn Hughes right now. He's still young. He's still very much in his prime. You don't need to wait for Buium to turn into it. Just go get him. And I think that's a big time deal. And there was there was some rumors about New Jersey. And a potential package that they were trying to put together that fell through for various reasons. And, it sounds like Buffalo is interested. But I don't
Detroit.
know. I don't know that anybody beats this package, frankly, because Rossi's just I think an underrated player still, probably because he's undersized, but he's a really good middle six centerman.
I think if you were to take the top 5, and I like the way the PDO cast put this. It was, if you're down 3-2 or up 3-2 with the game to go, and you have to put your best top 5 on the ice, how many better top 5s are there in the Western Conference?
Well, this is what Russ talks about. This is what Russ always said. Russ has always said, like, at the end of the day, Edmonton, you get to the third period against Edmonton, they're just better. Their best players are better than our best players from a King standpoint. That's how you just can't beat them. And yeah, Brandon, like, you look now.
How many teams are better than that?
Yeah. Probably what? Colorado. The conversation is Colorado, it's Edmonton, and it's Dallas. Carolina is probably still missing that really, truly elite guy to be in that conversation. But
Minnesota has a top 5 forward in the league.
Yep.
They have a top 5 defenseman, if not top 3 defensemen in the league. You have Boldy, who can score. The only thing they're really missing is their center is a solid center, but he's not an elite number 1.
I like Eriksson.
He's very quality.
I see what you're saying, Brandon.
He's on a Nathan McKinnon or like a McDavid, right?
That's the concern.
Your star is on wing, right? So, but still, like, you take their top 5. Like, I almost take it over Dallas's top 5. Quinn Hughes is a slight upgrade over Heiskanen. Kaprizov I think is better than Rantanen. Eriksson and Rope are maybe similar, and then you have Jason Robinson and Boldy. Like, you're splitting hairs at every single one of those positions. So, true. Are you really getting that much better at that point? Like, I don't know. I would take them in a coin flip or in a 3-minute scenario as much as anybody.
It'll be a fun series to watch. Definitely. I feel like like I said, I give the nod to Dallas. We'll see what Minnesota does, because, like you said, it seems like everybody's very concerned over their center ice position. I'm not as low on that position for them. Like I said, I'm still a big believer in Eriksson Ek. I've always liked him as a player. They could obviously use a player in that spot, but I think with the other players that you mentioned, in Boldy, Kaprizov, we're always very high on defensemen here. So when you're able to put Quinn Hughes and even Brock Faber, who I think is a little overrated, but still brings a good, solid foundation to the back end. When you're able to bring those players together on the ice, you're going to win a lot of hockey games.
I think what it just shows that Minnesota's just been taking best player available. Like, Jasper Walsat fell to them, they took him. Z Bouillon fell to them, they took him. Matt Boldy fell to them, they took him. Marco Rossi, fell to them at, I think, 14 or something like that. They took him. No, he was a top 10 pick. Anyways, they just be taking these guys that fall to them in the draft, and whether they use them on the ice or they trade them for better players, they're taking the best player available every single time.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, we talked about this a bit with that when the Kings prospect pool was one of the best in the league for a couple of years there, and like, I don't know that we've necessarily seen the returns from it, be it Kings players themselves or turned into trade assets.
The two best assets for that would be Kevin Fiala in a trade, and Clark has been good so far.
Man, like, how many second-round picks have the Kings missed on? Pretty much all of them. Maybe besides George, and we still don't know there.
He's not a hit.
Every second-round pick has been a miss.
And
it's awful.
And to that point, Brandon, like, you have to give a lot of credit to Minnesota, because they were able to acquire players that developed to be good enough, whether it's pick any one of those guys, and to where they were valuable assets in a trade to acquire the second best player on earth, the second best defenseman on earth. Right. So like that's impressive from a prospect standpoint.
So I kind of want to transition this into how this relates to the Kings, and we've already kind of hinted here and there or poked at it, and and if you don't listen to the PDO cast, they're great in the way they break down hockey, and you guys turned me on to them. I've been listening to a lot more this year, and the way they broke down this trade is one of the guys that was in there for their Sunday breakdown is a Vancouver Canucks fan, so he really broke down the Canucks team as a whole, and some of the highlight points of what he said is Vancouver does not create offense from the blue line. So they are bottom in the league at 5-on-5 on creating rush chances from the blue line. Well, who's also in the bottom 5? Your LA Kings. So it's like they have a bunch of defensemen who are pylons and maybe one guy that can really create offense from the blue line. Okay, well, we have Brent Clark and Drew Doughty, and he's not even in the realm. They're both neither in the realm of Quinn Hughes. And they're not creating rush chances, not creating offense. Their power play is not that good because their defense can't create offense from the back end. And that reminded me a lot of your LA Kings. 2, they said a lot of the fan base and the moves that the brass made thought this team was 1 or 2 pieces away because of the way Vancouver went in the playoffs a couple of years ago. And hey, we're right there. We're just on the playoffs. We're right there. We need to make a couple moves. That sounds eerily familiar, right? Hey, won 105 points, 105 points. We're right there. A couple puck drops this way. Quentin Byfield chips it out. Yada yada yada. The Kings are moving forward in the playoffs, and that's the team that we have. I think they also have signed a lot of people to bad contracts. Not as bad as Cody Ceci, but signing Brock to that level of a deal when that long of term, they went out and got a lot of guys. They traded away some of their better prospects for middling ground players, and they've kind of really dumped it all in to kind of maybe keep Quinn Hughes happy and push towards a run. And it hasn't worked, and they're last in the league because all these decisions have went for a team that is old, a team that can't move the puck, a team that is not competitive. And it seems like our Los Angeles Kings are mere images of all those adjectives or sentences or idioms or however you want to label it. Are the Kings closer to the Vancouver Canucks than they are the Colorado Avalanche?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I would say you probably just gave a bit of an endorsement, not endorsement, but like almost a compliment to Jim Hiller, because it's like, yeah, like the way when you lay it out like that, it's like this team is got a lot of players that are not very good, and yet here we are sitting in the playoff spot, and I think Jim Hiller, should get some credit for that, and that his defensive structure and his style of play and how he wants to do it is going to have such a high floor that we talked about before. That ceiling is going to be limited, but if the goal is playoffs, they got a really good chance to get there because of the way they play. And yeah, I think that's probably fair that the Kings are a heck of a lot closer to Vancouver or 30th than Colorado or first. I know standings wise, like they're sitting in I don't know what place they're in the NHL. I think they're seventh or so in the West. But like if you talked about the whole,
they are 16th. They're exactly in the center. They're 16th.
Perfect. And I think if you look at where, if you were somebody that's thinking, they're right there, or the 105 points that we heard all summer, and you mentioned the Byfield, if they just chipped it out, like this team, like I don't have any time for that. Like, I just don't know how you, unless you're looking through this through, black and silver or purple and gold colored glasses, like I just don't know how you can't see the consistent backward steps that this organization has taken from a roster build standpoint to get to the point that they're now at, and have been trending toward, and so none of this is surprising. And yeah, they could very well be a lot closer to Vancouver than Colorado. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, the funny thing is that Vancouver had 109 points 2 years ago, and pretty much were in the same boat. They just, I mean, they got the Predators in the first round, so I think a lot of people kind of had them favored, and maybe the Kings would have been favored over the Predators in that year too. But ended up losing to the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games, and maybe that's just kind of like the NFL and the Tom Brady days, and when you're in the AFC, and then you just come across this player who's just you're always going to lose to. That's just what it is. What it is. So do you just kind of dive further into that? Hey, we're going to do our best to try to beat this guy, or do you go back and say, okay, let's revisit everything and try to see if we can maybe tackle this in a more broader sense, take a little bit more of a patient approach to it, and both the Vancouver Canucks and the LA Kings have kind of done the same thing where they're just going to say, we're going to do our best to just dive straight into this. And look where it's gotten to Vancouver.
I don't think that's crazy. But Russ, it's the pivot. It's who they targeted to be the guys that they thought would get them over the hump. Because look, Minnesota, they're going to have to go through freaking Dallas and Colorado. Yep. It'd be easy for them to say, well, maybe now's not the time when McKinnon is a mutant and Makar is crazy and we got to deal with Dallas. Like, maybe this is just bad timing.
And there's no guarantee Hughes stays, right? I mean, he's got
right. But you know what? Left. They said, screw it. We're going to do it. And I respect them for that. And I think that that's a good thing to do. Why not? You know, I mean, I think as good as Colorado's been, I think there's you know, in a matchup against a Minnesota in a series, you know, that's not going to be a guarantee for Colorado, right? We talk about how playoffs is totally different, right? When you get into a series situation and matchups and, you know, teams are able to scout and whatnot. So I think it's just about who's evaluating the talent and who's making the decisions on the roster that impacts that, Russ. Like, I think that's the bigger part of this here.
Agree.
You know, I look at it this way, and I understand teams like Vancouver a couple years ago, Calgary, us. You know, there's big money in making the playoffs, right? So the home team gets more playoff games, they get some more revenue, fandom, excitement, yada yada, and it's hard. To be honest, as the brass of the Kings, how hard is it to sell a reboot after just having a rebuild? Hey, we failed at doing this, and the people that are making decisions are the same people. Well, we're going to try this again. Like, that's just not something that is really sellable to fans. You know, I think it's tough to make those decisions, especially after telling fans that we're one piece away or two pieces away or we're close or all those types of things. It's tough. It's tough to have those New York Ranger moments where you write the fan base a letter saying that we're going to start for a while and you're just going to have to deal with it. I think, and I don't even think the Kings, a lot of people say rebuild. Rebuild to me is like tearing it down, like what we just did. Like, the Kings could retool. Fiala's still a good piece. Kempe is obviously signed here. Brant Clark, you have a lot of these guys. But you're also going to, if you're going to retool, you need young assets. And the Kings are going to have to trade away assets in order to get CC and Edmondson off the books. Like, they're going to have to trade away or do what Minnesota's been doing and taking a $15 million cap hit to cut people. Right. Yeah. And, you know, so it's just, you know, do they retool? I think let's transition this Quinn Hughes conversation to the Kings. If the Kings the Kings didn't even make an offer. But if they did make an offer, is this team better with Quinn Hughes? Do you feel different about the LA Kings with Quinn Hughes on the roster? Presumably, if we do apples for apples, the trade is something like either Brant Clark and or Quentin Byfield, a high-end first-round pick, maybe Henry from last year or Liam Greentree, and a 1. Does that make you better than with those players out there? I think you get the best player in the trade. And a lot of people online have been like, I think it was one of my most popular tweets putting this out there, like, oh, well, Quentin Byfield, Clark, Green Tree, and a first is way better than that offer that Minnesota gave. Is it? Like Quentin Byfield has,
Is it?
like, is it? Quentin Byfield has had multiple 50-point seasons that Rossi hasn't had, but Rossi's had a 60-point season, and he's a 2C. Byfield is still a 2C. Clark and Z Bouillon have the same amount of points, and Z Bouillon's 2 years younger.
He's a left shot.
He's a left shot. Yep. Liam Ogren and Liam Greentree both have no success at the NHL level. Both have had major success at the minor league level, and we both have 2026 first. So are we really splitting hairs there? Like, would that kind of trade for Quinn Hughes, giving up maybe that asset or those assets, or maybe you take out Brent Clark and you put in one of our goalie assets or two goalie assets or whatever? Does it make this team better? Does it change your opinion on the Kings' ability to get out of the first round with a superstar like Quinn Hughes?
It maybe changes my opinion on them getting out of the first round. But again, I really genuinely believe, like, when you have what they have weighing them down, you can't survive CC and Edmondson in the same decor and Dumoulin in the same decor is appalling. You can't survive that. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. So could a Quinn Hughes acquisition have been, so impactful that it could have gotten him out of the first round in the right matchup? Maybe. Do I think it gets him by Edmonton or Vegas? It's hard to envision that, but there's a scenario where they could play in Anaheim, and I don't know, maybe that's enough to get them through that. But like, I don't know. Like, I do think it may have made them better, Brandon. Because like, what is I don't know, like, what is Quentin Byfield right now? That what hurt the Kings for that deal is obviously their just tremendous lack of center depth in terms of quality.
Yeah, because the nose a nobody right now.
Yeah,
you have Turcotte playing 2C.
Yeah, that would really sting. So, I mean, I don't I don't think it changes my overall outlook in that the team isn't a contender. So I don't think the situation was right for LA. Like, when you look at the differences between what Minnesota had around the roster and what LA has, I think it's just a different scenario, different situation. So
do you think that would you, as a fan of the LA Kings, would it make you more inspired about the rest of the season that they're making big moves like that and they're trying to bring in players that are more in line with what your thought process is rather than CC and Edmondson? Sure,
but it'd be a little like,
it's like spinning their tires.
Yeah, it'd be a little contradictory in a way too. Like, because you're doing this now after CC Edmondson. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? Is there any direction here? So I think Russ was right earlier when he said, you know what? I don't know how much they would have valued Quinn Hughes.
Right. I forget who the guy said. I can't find it anymore, but he said Quinn Hughes and Brent Clark would feed families. Like, that would have been a fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would have been a fun pairing to watch. It's tough. It's tough. I think Kings fans are just in a bog. We're in a bog of fog, in a swamplands. Every step is brutal. We don't know where we're going. It's hard to see light at the end of the tunnel. Yet we're in playoff hockey, or we're going to be.
It's so funny.
It's so weird, and we say it every single episode, and I'm sure our fans are tired of hearing the middle ground answers, the answers of, hey, this team's not good, but we're in a playoff spot. But sometimes you just got to call the pot. It's got to call the kettle black, and it is what it is. Like, we are here, and this is the type of team that we have. We're gonna get.
I feel like that. Sorry, I was gonna say, I feel like that guy from. You seen the movie Major League? The guy's like in the stand. He's like, "Oh, they'll blow it in the playoffs." It's like they're in the playoffs, but it's like we still think they suck.
It's too high.
Jack Fry right here, I think, says it perfectly. We're treading water in irrelevancy.
The old Minnesota Wild. Yeah. That's the Kings are the new Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild finally figured it out.
they've always been like top 5 in expected goal share, top in everything, and high danger. And now they're just middle of the pack in everything.
Everywhere.
You look at every number statistically, and like it is weird because you think about like where would this team be if like they had just like a decent power play, right?
Yeah.
Like how many games have they lost 1 goal, or even if they are able to figure it out in overtime or in a shootout,
Sure.
like the Kings could be a second place team or even close to the division leader if they were able to win some of these overtime or shootout games or even score on the power play. And we probably still would be having this conversation thinking like, God damn, these games are so boring. This team is going to suck in the
But good thing we
playoffs.
have the power play.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Good special teams, particularly good power play, can definitely cover up a lot. And, you know, obviously LA's hasn't. And I just think, again, you know, when we've talked about this, and I think there's still, it's just everything about the Kings in the offensive zone is perimeter. Like right now, Dallas is playing San Jose. And if you watched Wyatt Johnson scored the goal, it put Dallas up 2-0 at the time. It was a pass from, I think it was Heiskanen at the blue line. It was a diagonal pass to the far circle, to the far dot. So when Wyatt Johnson catches that pass, he takes one step, he's in a higher danger area, and he lasers one. Dallas, I bet if you looked, I bet Dallas is probably not that high in terms of shot attempts, and maybe even Corsi. But I bet from an expected goal standpoint, I bet they're up there. And I haven't looked at this lately, so I'm guessing there. But they are intentionally looking for quality, not quantity. And it's just the opposite of how the Kings do. And I've tweeted this a few times, and I can't take it anymore with hearing about the broadcast talk about shot mentality. All the Kings do is have a shot mentality. They have the 6th most shot attempts in the NHL at 5-on-5. They have a shot mentality. They have a shot quality problem. And it drives me nuts. It's like, shoot the puck. Like, okay, shoot the puck into the goalie who's set in his chest and he's going to stop it. No, sometimes you do need to make the extra pass because that puck ain't going in the net. And it's just their whole philosophy of throw pucks at the net and hope. And it's just, I'm so sick of hearing the shot mentality. They have it. They shoot the puck a lot. They don't
It's even
have
worse on the power play. It's even worse when they talk about it on the power play.
I know.
Like that's going to fix anything.
No, it's not. That's the problem, is the bad shots on the power play. Like it's, you know, I mean, I'm just, and it's doing a disservice, frankly, to like the fan base. It's like, come on, like you guys know better than that.
Yeah.
You know better. It's frustrating.
What's been frustrating is Philip Deneau's play, and it's been highly sought after by fans, or talked about by fans. And rumors have been going around that he's asked for a trade or is open to being traded. Alan Walsh's agent pretty much stomped those rumors, saying that why don't you come to me for a real source? Pretty much calling out all those blue check marks out there on Twitter saying that they're wrong. But he's been sick for about a millennium. So hopefully he is feeling better soon. But is Phil Deneau, we brought him as a possible trade piece. Is he now just a trade away candidate because is he hurting the team, and should Hellenius be getting more play for potential future retool or rebuild going for the LA Kings?
Well, it's kind of a crappy situation because you would like to see Phil Deneau play well, and I still think, even though he hasn't been producing, that he is maybe marginally better than Alex Turcotte, definitely better than Sammy Hellenius. So when you trade away a player like that, coupled with a Quentin Byfield who can't really figure it out right now, Andrzej Kopitar who's on the last year of his career, your center depth takes a major hit. But the thing is I've been just extremely disappointed in his overall play this year, to the point where I watch him play and I'm thinking like, man, why is that effort not there? And because it hasn't been there, in my opinion. I just watch it play and I'm thinking like, this is a player that looks like he wants to be traded. And sure enough, here come the reports that it seems like he wants to be traded. So I'm thinking like, okay, it makes just a ton of sense that this is happening because we've seen Deneau be a better player than what he's been playing like this season. We've seen it. We saw it just as recently as last playoffs, where I thought he was probably the Kings' best forward in most games.
Yeah.
So at this point, it just kind of feels like you have to trade him. And I think a lot of this like he's sick thing is maybe just kind of like, okay, let's just kind of hold him off and then we'll try to figure out what's going on. Like I totally feel like that's what's going on. Although I kind of feel for Deneau because I was sick like a week ago and I'm still kind of getting over it. So I'm like, okay, maybe he is kind of sick. But yeah, I think it's to the point where now you just kind of have to trade him and try to get what you can for him. But I feel a little bit for Ken Holland because you don't like. Obviously, we talked about like this is a team that wants to win, so they're not trading Philip Deneau for like a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick. Like, where does that get them? So he's probably trying to figure out his best to get a player back in return that maybe can give you any sense of like similar production, even though it's funny to say that he has no goals, similar kind of production to a Phil Deneau.
Yeah.
So I look at teams that are around, and one team that kind of jumps out is Montreal, and it kind of Scary McLarinian. He pointed out Montreal wants him bad. He's actually in Montreal. That Montreal wants him bad, although some Canadiens fans just don't want him at all. Although I wonder if maybe you can get like a Jake Evans. I think that'd be asking a lot. So because Jake Evans is a great player and he signed a really team-friendly deal. So I don't know if you'd be able to swing that, but maybe you can try to get like a young piece, like an Owen Beck, who's a right shot centerman who seems to be very good in the faceoff circle for how young he is in his career. So it's tough because, yeah, you're probably not going to get like a 1st round pick or even like a solid NHLer in return for Deneau. But at this point, it seems like you have to trade him just because of whether it just be a trade request that kind of seems like it's on the table or just his production just isn't there right now in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I just tend to be a bigger Deneau fan than most. Obviously, I get the production just is nothing. He still has pretty good defensive metrics. He's still a good defensive centerman, which is not nothing. Like I think he's going to be. I would not be the least bit surprised if he goes to a team this year and has a heck of a second half and a strong playoffs and maybe even wins himself a cup like on a true cup contender, because I think he can have that type of impact on a team from a defensive standpoint. Yeah, I hear you with Montreal, Russ, and I get the Jake Evans. My only thing is like, so now they've got like 3 4th-line centers if they get Jake Evans. I just don't know that I don't know. Like I'm more curious about and I tweeted this the other day, like I can't quit Jesperi Kotkaniemi in Carolina, who seems to be fallen out of favor there. So I don't know, like if you're Carolina, you're a cup contender, you're looking to really shore up, Deneau's a pro, you're looking to shore up that kind of defensive maybe side, PK, things like that, which, I think Kotkaniemi's pretty good at that too. But I don't know. I agree. Like you can't trade him for picks because again, Holland is here to win. So I think it's going to have to be some sort of a player. So you're looking for teams that would find value in a Deneau. Like they're not looking for a top end scorer. They're looking for like a depth centerman. So I think a team like, maybe a team like a Colorado, maybe a team like a Buffalo, maybe a team like Carolina. These are teams that kind of jump out a little bit. Montreal makes a lot of sense. I'm just not sure what comes back. So I think Montreal could make a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of teams. I think Phil Deneau could help a lot of freaking teams. It's just a matter of what's coming back. It's disappointing to see the season he's having because, I do think he's a valuable player. The situation hasn't gone well. My question is to you guys, is it a little weird that like Phil Deneau of all people is reportedly, now I know his agent has denied this, and there's been reports, like I think Pierre LeBrun reported today too, that he also said that it didn't sound like he actually asked for a trade. Well, let's run with it for a little bit. Is it weird that Phil Deneau of all people is like looking out? Like, wouldn't this be a team that would be great for Phil Deneau? Defensive first. I don't know. It just seems strange for for a guy like Deneau to be potentially.
They brought him in to have increased minutes and increased role offensively as well. They've given him that. Like, how long has he been on the second power play with no production?
Yeah.
How, like, he's either playing 2C or 3C for the most of his career here, majority of it being 2C while Byfield has been getting ready, or when Byfield was playing the first line. I mean, he got exactly what he signed on for. So maybe I understand like vibes change, and maybe the vibes have changed with the LA Kings, and he just feels like it's time to move on. And I get needing to be in a new location, but if all accounts are correct, he got exactly what he signed on the dotted line for with the LA Kings: more playing time, more offensive responsibility. Like, I just don't understand what he would be asking for and why he wants to be traded, unless it's personal. Maybe wanting to go back to out of LA to into Canada, or maybe it's just like the vibes aren't right and he just feels like he needs out, wants to change. I don't know. It seems more of a personal thing than a play thing to me.
That's what I feel like too. I mean, we don't know, so it's all speculation, but that's kind of my sense. I mean, from a hockey standpoint, you would think like you're getting all the kind of minutes and whatnot. I mean, he has been, although minutes have kind of gone down a little bit. And maybe that's where it's kind of stemmed this decision, where it's come from. Maybe he also sees the writing on the wall. Maybe it's just, well, I don't know, because Kopitar's leaving. You have still a couple more years left. So, yeah, it's tough. I think it's more, it could be more personal. Maybe just wants to get the family back somewhere else. Doesn't like being on the West Coast. But
no, Washington.
There's a center over there that's injured that I think that might be a nice try for the Kings, called Pierre Luc Dubois.
With his injury, they're playing some better hockey, I think, of late. What's their center situation?
Nick Dow's been hurt too.
There was a young player who has needs a kind of a change of scenery as well. And I saw this. It wasn't me. I won't take credit for this. I forget who put it out, but Hendrix Lapierre. Okay. Young prospect. He was a first-round pick. He has about 5-6 points this year. He's young, maybe looking for a change of scenery. If the Kings wanted to get younger and have a center that needs a change of scenery, like Hendrix has had good seasons in the past, and maybe not to the frame of Deneau, but a couple of years younger, you stay centerman. He is, all accounts, similar skill set.
I just think that I don't know. It just feels like not the type of a trade that Holland would make. Like, I think there's two names that I tweeted out. One was Kotkaniemi, and I'm here for that. The other one is Jordan Greenway, and I honestly think like Deneau would do wonders for Buffalo. They had a serious issue down the middle when Josh Norris got hurt, and he's, hopefully not, but he may get hurt again. He has a tendency to do that. But they could really use, stealing a word from Ken Holland, kind of a pro down the middle, an established centerman. I think he could do quite well for a team like Buffalo. And I can see Ken Holland adoring a Jordan Greenway, who's a monster. Doesn't play all that big, to be honest with you. I'm not saying I subscribe to that deal, but I can just see a Ken Holland pulling something like that off, or wanting a player like a Greenway. But again, like, they have to get a player in return, and it's a tricky situation because you're selling really low on a player. So, who's willing to give you something? So you gotta look. And if it is a player, you probably have to look for somebody that, a player that's maybe a bit out of favor with wherever they are. And that's why I look to Buffalo and Greenway, and I look to Carolina and Kotkaniemi. That's why those names kind of jump out. But
two other teams.
Don Jay puts Deneau does have a modified no trade list, and I got to assume Buffalo's on it.
That's true. There are two other teams that were rumored with Deneau, and I'll pull out two names from those teams. New Jersey was one team, and I think we talked about in the offseason, but Cody Glass would be interesting. Right shot centerman, $2.5 million this year and next year. So
I can see that.
I
Makes a lot
think
of
that'd
sense.
be an easy flip. Not to say that Cody Glass is like some great player. And then another name I see some people throw out, which I don't know if this team would do it, but I would love it, is Barrett Hayton out in Utah. And he's only got 7 points this season, so I understand why that name's been thrown around in 31 games. I don't know what his ice time has been like, but he's a young player, 25 years old, restricted free agent at the end of this year. I've been a big fan of this player, so that'd be a tough flip for Utah. But if you're looking to win now, I mean, that's maybe the type of player Utah could use. Who knows? I don't know.
Interesting.
But, like I said, I don't know if Utah would swing that because you still have team control there, and Hayton's a big, I think, piece in that youthful movement.
I would sign up for Hayton. I would sign up for Kotkaniemi. I think I can see the logic in a Cody Glass deal too, to be honest with you. So at the end of the day, I like to know, and I hope he does well, and I hope that this change of scenery happens for him because I think he's a good player. He's a better player than what we've seen this year, and I think he's going to help somebody.
All right, we have two questions here before we close out. Yes or no? Does Philip Deneau get traded by the end of the season? Yes or no?
Yes.
I'll say yes. But the fact that he's still out with this quote unquote illness, like he might get traded by the end of the week. When's the freeze? Tomorrow?
He might get traded tomorrow.
Freeze is the 20th. Yeah. Yes or no? Jim Hiller gets fired by end of season.
No.
I want to say no, but
your mind's telling you no, but your body's telling you yeah.
My eyes are telling me yes, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's what is he's not Holland's guy. That's the only reason it comes back to me. And I just don't know if they go on another stretch, they got the win tonight, but they were heavily outplayed. And I get it was a back-to-back and whatnot, so there is something there, but they can't score. Their power play is abysmal. There's all the writing just seems like it's on the wall. Where I thought that something would happen this weekend if they ended up losing today, or even if they ended up winning today because of how poorly they've been playing. I mean, it just seems like the players just kind of, I don't want to say they're not bought in because they're still playing defensive first hockey. So it's hard to say that, but it's just a team that just can't figure out how to score. And maybe a lot of that is due to the coach. But I mean, I think we all agree here. A lot of that is partially because of the GM too.
Yeah. They would need an extended pointless streak, because they keep winning, or when they lose in overtime. So they just keep grabbing points. So here we sit, I don't want to say comfortably, but in a playoff spot.
I feel like this team, the coaching situation is the same as the normal team. They're in a fog with no way out, because even if they get a different head coach with a different philosophy, say the philosophy is, hey, I want to run and gun and make sure let's get all these pucks up to these forwards with all the speed. Who are the players that are going to do that? Mm-hmm. Where's the defensemen that are going to do that? Cody Ceci can't run and gun. Joel Edmondson can't run and gun. Mikey Anderson can't run and gun. Brian Newman can't run and gun. You're talking about Brant Clark and half Drew Doughty. So, if they get a different head coach in here, now if that head coach is DeBure and they're like, okay, we're going to retool and he's going to be our head coach for the future, we're going to make some changes, flip everything around, then maybe. But if they're like, hey, we need a head coach to just flip the vibe and we're still going in for this season, what is that head coach really doing? He's got the same pieces.
I think there's a middle ground, though. There's a middle ground between what the Kings do and run and gun. I still think you can. I think there's a middle ground here. You can do some things in the offensive zone that isn't just cycling around the outside and fire shots from the point. The D-men may not be the most mobile, but they're NHL players. We would expect that they can at least pass the puck. and get them, move the puck to the slot area a bit more frequently, look for more diagonal passes, more seam passes that they just don't do any of because they're just shooting from perimeter. Like, I think there's other avenues that they could go down to where they don't have to be, necessarily run and gun. But your point's valid, Brandon, in that, like, does it move the needle? And I think that's a very fair question. And the answer is probably no, like, because you still got the anchors. You're only going to go as far as the anchors you're going to be able to drag Edmondson, CC, and Dumoulin. And you can only drag 3 of those guys so far. It's one thing to drag 1 of them, but to drag 3 is tough.
Yeah, I think we'll see a Ken Holland trade or two before we see a coaching change.
Agreed. I think he'll try to make a deal. And listen, I think he'll try to make a deal to spark the offense. We saw Kuzmenko come in last year. I don't know what it'll be this year. We'll see. I think that's conceivable. Obviously I'm skeptical that something like that's going to work, but we'll see. Like, if a Deneau trade happens and it's just a little bit of a shakeup, because you figure he's been here a bit. The core of this team has been here for years now. Like, maybe something like that just kind of jolts the locker room just enough that things start to kind of perk up a little bit. Who knows? But yeah, I agree with that, Russ, that we're probably much more likely to see a trade first than a coach. And again, they're in the playoffs. This team has not gone on an extended losing streak. I don't think Hiller's seat is all that hot. I really don't. I don't even know if it's warm.
I think we're more likely to see an all-in push-in from Ken Holland than a rebuild.
100%. Get rebuild out. People talking rebuild. Guys, Ken Holland ain't rebuilding. It's not happening.
He just gave Kempe what? 11 million? What is that what it was?
There's a better chance they trade Greentree than they rebuild. Okay. So stop. I get it. I get why you would want it. I understand it. It's not happening. There's no way it's happening.
Well, on that cheery note, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you guys celebrate. Hope you guys are safe with your guys' families. Enjoy your time with all your loved ones. We love our Kings hockey. We hope things in 2026 are a little bit better for us. We'll see what episodes look like next week. It is the holiday, so we might just take a week off and come back in the new year. But appreciate your guys' love and care as our fans of Hockey Royalty. We are nothing without our fans, and I really appreciate what you guys bring to this podcast. And I hope that every hour or hour and a half that you guys listen to us once a week brings a brightness to your guys' day. Appreciate you guys and all that you guys do for us. Joe, Russ, appreciate you guys. Hockey Royalty isn't the same without my buds there. And as always, on this podcast, go Kings go.